What is up, my brothers and sisters? Hope you're all having a great day. Today I'm going to review a film that I just got on DVD, which I'm so happy about because it's an absolute masterpiece. Gaspar Noé's Irreversible. And I love this copy in particular because it has two discs. One is the original cut, which is told in reverse chronological order, and the straight cut, which is just like how a normal film is told. And that's kind of what I want to talk about at first. So this film, it hits so hard because obviously it's super controversial for being extreme. It's categorized as an assault revenge film, just like one that I did on this channel. They call her One Eye, which is also a controversial film. Also, movies like I Spit on Your Grave can be technically categorized in the same genre, but this film does it in a different way. It tells the story in a different way, and it depicts how brutal the act actually is and how horrible it is. And it does that on purpose. It's an extremely hard film to watch, and it starts off, both the editing and the actual film itself, in disarray, in violence, and in chaos. And you can see it in the editing, in the lighting. I mean, the lighting is absolutely insane. A bunch of reds, a bunch of blacks, the camera spinning around, it's going. I mean, there's absolutely expert editing in this film. I think when we're talking about films of the early 2000s, which Irreversible is from, the early 2000s, I think from an artistic perspective, it's one of the Goliaths of the early 2000s. I mean, the camera techniques are just so great. It starts off in one extreme and ends in another. The lighting just exploding. It's almost seizure-inducing, the lighting. That's how the movie starts. And it's also how it ends at the very end of the movie. It's kind of like a circle. The movie is like a circle. It starts at the end, goes to the beginning, and then it ends or begins at the end or the beginning, depending on how you think of it. That's the original cut. And from watching the original cut of this film and the straight cut, which is the second disc, you get two completely different ideas of the movie, and there are going to be spoilers in this video. Now, obviously, both versions are great films, and they're both masterpieces, and I think that you should watch both of them, because you are going to get a completely different experience. In the beginning, it starts off with the revenge, and you don't know that it's a revenge. You don't know anything. It literally starts off kind of on something that it's just two guys talking in a jail cell. Cell. It's hard to say. Jail cell. About the crimes that they did. And there's all this different philosophical talk in the movie. And kind of the premise of the film is no action is good and no action is bad. I think they say something very similar to that. It's like some poetic way of saying that. And that's an idea. I'm not saying that's what the film is saying, but the way that it's told backwards, you get that. Because it starts off with two guys breaking into this, or going into this. And honestly, I think this is the most unnecessary. This is the only unnecessarily extreme thing in the movie, because there are extreme scenes in the movie that's very famous for, but I think they're absolutely necessary. And even the way that they're shot, they're necessary, because the movie's entire point is to convey how horrible the act that it portrays is, how horrible and evil and degenerate and horrible it is. And there's no room for glorification or anything. The only thing that I think is unnecessary is they go into this gay club and it's super like explicit. It doesn't need to be like that. I think if anything's for shock value, it's that, because it's so weird and just it doesn't make sense to even have it in the movie, frankly. But so they're going through this club and they find this guy and they're like, "Hey, are you?" And this is a French film. I don't know if I said, but it's in the French extremity genre, and it's probably the most famous or infamous and controversial film from this genre, the French Extremity, because it's very brutal. Anyway, enough of the talk. I'm just going to get on with it. And there are spoilers, so if you don't want it to be spoiled, turn it off and buy this copy right here. This one. If you're going to buy a copy, buy this one. Anyway, I don't want this video to be too long. I'm still wasting time. Anyway, so they break into the club, or not, they don't break in, but they go in and they're looking around, these two guys. And one of the guys is like, hey, calm down, calm down. And the other guy who has a shaved head, he looks like a badass. He's like, where is he? Where is he? Where's the guy? And I forget his name. It's because it's a French film. I forget which word they use, but it means tapeworm. Like, it translates to tapeworm. Where is this guy? Where is this guy? And then they point him out over there, but there's two guys standing next to each other. And he's like, are you him? Are you him? Are you him? And one of them walks away, and he assumes that it's the guy. So he starts fighting him and fighting him and fighting him. And then the guy that he's fighting, the guy that he starts the fight with, because he's angry. He has something, clearly someone did something very wrong, and he's trying to get revenge. That's kind of clear. It's not given, but you can kind of assume that from the first scene. And they're fighting back and forth, and the guy actually gets the guy that was pointed out in the crowd. He gets the guy that was trying to get the revenge to the ground, and he starts beating him up, and then he starts to act like he's going to do something really horrible to him. So then the other guy, the guy that was trying to calm the situation down, he grabs a fire extinguisher and smashes the guy in the head. Okay, right there, it would have been done. He's on the ground. But then he gets this feeling to him. And the rage that the other guy has, the guy that just got his butt kicked on the ground, he then feels. Because whatever they're getting revenge on, they both have the same feeling. And initially, the other guy was more rational. He was in a suit, he was more rational, and he didn't want to take it to the extreme violence. But then he feels the same way. He has the same feeling. So he just hits him in the head and hits him in the head and hits him in the head and hits him in the head with a fire extinguisher, and his head becomes flat. I'm not joking. You see it in the film. The violence, and this is the revenge. We find out later that this is the revenge. It is very violent. This revenge is extreme. He does it, he hits him in the head probably 15 times, but really hard, and you see his face. And his jaw just twitches. He's on the ground twitching. And like I said, it's a brutal film. But the revenge is very extreme. Anyway, it's a reverse film. So you find out that a woman that they both know, and then you find out later, I'm going to spoil it, you find out later that the guy with the shaved head, the buzzed haircut, he was dating a woman who was assaulted very brutally. And it's a 9-minute long assault. And it shows it. There's no cuts. It shows it from the point of view of the woman. I mean, not the point of view. It just shows it happening. But you're at eye level. And at one point, she just puts her hand out while it's happening. And it's so brutal, and it's so violent, and it's so extremely hard to watch. But it's for a reason. The reason is to show and depict. And I don't think movies should have this. I really don't think movies should have this. But this one, if any movie's going to have it, it's this one. And this one only, frankly. If there's going to be a movie to expose this kind of assault against women, it's this one. It's Irreversible. It does it in a way that is so extremely difficult to watch. But you, especially as a man, you need to understand what this kind of assault is. And you need to understand how brutal it is. It is extremely brutal. And it's horrible. And after he does this to this woman, he then beats her. He beats her bloody. He grabs her head and smashes it in the floor into the ground. Because it happens kind of like by a subway or like underneath. I'm not sure, because I've never been to a subway like that. But it's like not where the subway is, but it's like on the hallway going to the subway. Anyway, so these two guys are out to get revenge. That's the plot of the film. But what you find out, because you watch it backwards, because you see the revenge first, and then you see the assault. The person that they take the revenge out on whose face they smash in, that's not the person that assaulted the woman. That's not the one. It was the guy right next to him. It was his friend right next to him. And the friend was watching, and he was kind of grinning because he's horrible in the head. So there's that. So the revenge, there's no revenge. They almost got the revenge. If they did it to the guy directly next to him, they would have got it. And it would have been 100% justified. Obviously, vigilante justice, I'm not going to condone that. But I'm not going to feel sorry for the person if they got the right person, which they didn't. They didn't get the right person. So they just did that to a guy who was probably just as bad, frankly, if he's hanging out with him at the same place. I'm sure he was probably just as bad. I'm sure he'd done bad things, but that's not the point. It was not revenge. So it starts out in chaos, and then halfway through the film, the extremely horrible thing that happens to the woman happens exactly halfway through the film. So it's like 43 minutes one way, 43 minutes the other way. The second half, slowly, the editing changes more gently. Artistic, but more gentle editing. The lighting, different. The color palette that they use for background coloring in scene and for the scenes, the lighting, the colors that they use, the color palette changes to more gentle. And then at the end, at the very end, it ends at a park, and then there's a beautiful blue sky like this one, and it's the woman, and she's reading a philosophical book that they talk through, and that's kind of the whole thing, like the idea is it ends at her at a park, a bunch of kids playing. She's reading this book about time and about how dreams, about dreams. It's more about dreams, but also time. But it's about how dreams can predict the future, and about how everything is already laid out, and everything was going to happen, and how everything that does happen is planned, like it's already planned out, and that sometimes that can happen through dreams. And then you find out that she actually has a dream where she's walking through this tunnel, which is where the horrible thing happens. But you find this out later. You see everything, every scene. There's 13 scenes. Every scene is the one after, as the movie goes, or it's the one before, So as the movie goes on, you're seeing the scenes from before. And that's how the movie's told in the original cut. And then in the straight cut, you just see it as a movie. And they're both great. You should watch them both. But you get two different feelings. If you watch it for the first time, the straight cut, going into it, you just think it's about a woman, and she finds out she's pregnant in the beginning, or in the original cut at the end, and she's thinking about how to tell her boyfriend, and they go to a party, and then when she leaves the party, something horrible happens, and then the boyfriend and her ex together take out revenge. But if you watch it in reverse, chronological order, or the original cut, you see a guy getting beat up by two guys, and then you find out that someone did a horrible crime, and those people are trying to get revenge. And then you find out that they're a couple. You find out, you see the couple living their life, and it's very nice, very cute. And then you find out that the woman's pregnant, and then you, at the very end, see her at a park reading a book. Very hard film to watch. Extremely hard film to watch. And, I say this, I am going to be talking about exploitation films. And technically this is classified as one, which I don't think it should be, because it's not, no one gets exploited. The female in the film, Monica Bellucci, who's one of the most famous French actresses of all time, she got to basically direct the horrible scene that happens. She got to direct that herself. She had complete control over how that was filmed, which is insane, because for a movie, for that to be the main scene, you think the director would want complete control. She got most of the say on what happened in that. You can watch her interviews. She'll say the exact same thing. She's not exploited. She chose how that was filmed. And it's hard to watch, of course. And you don't have to watch it. And maybe you shouldn't watch it, because it's hard to watch, that if you want to understand, especially as a man, how horrible that thing is, horrible that specific crime is, this is the film to do that. It shows you it, and then you understand. There's no debate. There's zero debate. So it's a very important film, in my opinion. I think this film does something that's extremely important. And the revenge, the way it's told, would be justified if they got the right person. And I'm not saying vigilante justice is the way to go. I'm not saying that at all. I'm 0% saying that. But I am saying something that there should have been some sort of justice for the person. And the rage that those two men felt about the one that they loved so much. And there's this one scene, and I'm going to end it on this because I kind of need to go right now. But there's this one scene to where when they're coming out of the party, there's an ambulance and they're like, there's someone got assaulted. And they're like, oh, they're kind of drunk. They are drunk. And one of them had been high, the guy with the shaved head. He looks down randomly at the woman that's getting pulled into the ambulance, and you see his face like no other film. Like the emotion that in its let's see, what's his name? Vincent Cassel? Cassel? Is that how you... Vincent Cassel? I don't think... It's Cassel, I think. I think that's how you pronounce it. Great acting. I mean, you see the way that he changes his emotion in that exact... when he looks at her. And then he jumps on top of her and starts sobbing and sobbing. That scene, like, is so powerful, I'm telling you. That's the most powerful scene in the film. And anyway, Gaspar Noé's Irreversible. Controversial, infamous, but extremely important film. I give this film, I think I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. Because it's really not for, not everyone can watch this film. It's super triggering. I could picture this film being very triggering for people, and I just want to let you know that. But the editing, the directing, the message, honestly, I really want to give it a 10 out of 10. I really want to give it a 10 out of 10. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 rating right now. It's super important. Like, this is one of the most important films I'll ever, like, do on this channel. And I just hate the fact that it's classified as an exploitation film, because it's extremely violent, extremely controversial, but it's not exploitative. Like, I promise you it's not. And also, like I already said, you know, beware, viewer discretion. Hard to watch, controversial, but very important. Anyway, hope to do another one of these soon. It might be a few more weeks. It might be a month. It might be a couple days. I'm not sure. But I love doing this. I love doing this channel. And I wanted to take a break because obviously I'm really busy. But I feel like I kept using the same words a lot in some of my videos. And also, what did I say? I said, is in my Steve McQueen, or is in my Bullet video. It is my favorite movie. Bullet's my favorite movie of all time. But I kept saying the same word over and over again. It was wrong. It was like the wrong word. I was trying to say something else. But anyway, hope y'all have a great day. Hope y'all stay blessed. Peace.